It's October 16th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with North Korea's blowing up of roads linking the south and the north. North Korea on Tuesday detonated explosive on parts of inter-Korean roads near the border. Seoul's military fired shots south of the military demarcation line, and the U.S. also called on the regime to stop actions that could increase the risk of conflict. Thousands of North Korean troops are reportedly being trained to help Russia's military fight Ukraine, another sign of the growing alliance between Moscow and Pyongyang. The South Korean national football team beat Iraq 3-2 in Tuesday night's World Cup qualifier, safely placing themselves on top of Group B. Once seen as a symbol of inter-Korean cooperation, the roads connecting the two Koreas were shattered by North Korea on Tuesday. The U.S. also urged the regime to halt its risk-taking actions. Our Kim Bo-kyung searches off.
North Korea blew up the roads on its side of the Gyeonggi and Donghae railway line routes on Tuesday. The Gyeonggi Line Road at 11:59 a.m. and the Donghae Line Road at 12:01 p.m. The roads were seen as the last symbol of inter-Korean cooperation, with the Mount Kumgang tourism project and the Kaesong industrial complex having long been suspended. The south and north were connected by road and rail along the Gyeonggi Line that connects Seoul and Pyongyang, while the Donghae Line connected the two Koreas on the east coast. The north dismantled the two rail lines earlier this year, leaving just the roads. The explosions took place approximately 10 meters north of the military demarcation line, destroying a 60 to 70 meter section of the Gyeonggi Line Road and around a 40 meter section of the Donghae Line Road. The South Joint Chiefs of Staff said there has been no damage to South Korean forces, as preparations had already been made to stay well clear. But the South Korean military fired a warning message to deter any further action, aiming at the ground within South Korean territories south of the MDL to avoid escalation. The Unification Ministry too released a statement calling it an abnormal action. While saying demolition is a clear violation of inter-Korean agreements, it said the act is a repetition of what happened 4 years ago.
This act is reminiscent of North Korea's abrupt destruction of the Inter-Korean Liaison Office 4 years ago that had been operating for over 1 year following joint agreements.
The ministry added that North Korea is still obliged to repay the loans used to build these roads, as the regime had been given funding worth over $132 million at the North's request. Washington voiced its concerns too, with the State Department urging North Korea on Tuesday to stop actions that would increase the risk of conflict and reiterating its calls for Pyongyang to come back to diplomacy. The State Department spokesperson also added that Washington is monitoring the North situation in close coordination with South Korea. With Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell and his South Korean and Japanese counterparts slated to gather in Seoul on Wednesday, North Korean issues are expected to be on the agenda. Meanwhile, group tours to around the demilitarized zone in Paju, Gyeonggi province, were temporarily suspended from Tuesday morning following a request from the South Korean Army. The suspended tourist sites include the Tora Observatory and the Third Infiltration Tunnel, locations where visitors can tour the DMZ area. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
And in the meantime, North Korea and Russia appear to be further tightening their military ties, with speculation that at least 3,000 North Korean soldiers have been deployed to Ukraine to help Moscow. Lee Seung-jae has more.
Earlier this week, Russian President Vladimir Putin submitted the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Treaty to the Russian parliament's lower house to be ratified. Assuming North Korean leader Kim Jong-un did the same during the regime's parliamentary meeting last week, it further solidifies military ties between the two. And that was seen in criticism from the Kremlin over allegation that Seoul flew a drone over Pyongyang. According to Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko, South Korea's recent actions could be branded as provocations that undermine stability and heighten tensions on the Korean peninsula. He emphasized that if an act of aggression occurs against North Korea, all necessary measures will be taken in accordance with Russian or North Korean law, citing the treaty signed by the two leaders in June. This has further fueled reports by Ukrainian media outlets that North Korea sent 3,000 soldiers to fight alongside Russia in that conflict. Reports say a battalion is being formed with the North Korean troops, which is being supplied with small arms and ammunition. It added that the battalion could be deployed to the Kursk Oblast in mainland Russia to fight off the Ukrainian offensive. Ukrainian media also reported that 6 North Korean soldiers were among the 20 or so killed in a missile attack in the Donetsk region earlier this month. However, Washington said while it was concerned about the reports, it did not independently confirm the reports. According to White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby, if reports are true, it shows a significant strengthening of North Korea-Russia defense ties. With growing tensions on the Korean peninsula, Moscow still remains relatively vague when it comes to supporting North Korea in case of a conflict with South Korea, as Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the wording in the treaty is clear when asked if Russia would come to the assistance. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now, let's delve deeper into North Korea's intentions behind the latest display of anger. We're joined by Dr. Mark Barry this morning. Welcome back.
Yes, good morning. Happy to be back again.
Thanks for joining us. What does it mean to blow up roads along the Gyeonggi and Donghae rail lines, which connect the two Koreas?
Well, roads are a means of goods being transported, and it means not even humanitarian supplies are going to be sent north in the future because the roads that were occasionally used are no longer connected. So basically, it's still symbolic, but it doesn't distract North Korea from its other priorities, whether domestic or its alliance with Russia. And as we know, the North already blew up the Inter-Korean Liaison Office more than 2 years ago.
Right.
And that railway links had begun a dismantlement, I believe, last May. But in my view, the ongoing leaflet balloons from the South have been a big cause of this because Kim believes they've been encouraged by the ROK government. And although it's unclear who sent the recent drones to Pyongyang, the evidence is that they originated from the South, whether they be from NGOs or the government or maybe a combination of the two. But we should caution that Hamas for years was sending incendiary balloons over the fence in Gaza over into Israel. And look where things are today. So this is a very, very dangerous tactic that's going on.
Well, Dr. Barry, let's talk more about the symbolic significance, the happening carries. Why is North Korea, symbolically then destroying inter-Korean relations that have been, slowly built up?
Well, my view is that, and I keep emphasizing this over and over again, this reflects a lack of continuity in foreign policy in both the U.S. and in South Korea between successive administrations. So just as Obama warned President-elect Trump in November 2016 that his biggest foreign policy headache was North Korea, President Trump should have conceded the election, believe it or not, and offered to connect President Biden to Kim. I mean, that's what we used to call continuity in foreign policy. And frankly, I think President Yoon would have been much better off to maintain even clandestine direct communication with Kim from 2022 because it would have showed his respect for Kim's decision in 2018 to improve relations with South Korea. But that perceived lack of direct respect towards Kim has contributed to this problem.
Well, Dr. Barry, trash carrying balloons, like you mentioned, drones carrying propaganda leaflets, and now blowing up roads. When will these provocation happenings actually stop? I mean, is there any chance all these will come to an end after the U.S. elections next month?
I think Kim is making permanent his cutting of ties with the South, and he's doing it before the next president takes office, but there's no guarantee we're going to know the winner. In the few days after the election. It took 36 days in the year 2000 between Gore and George W. Bush. So in my view, it's less a stunt than a declaration of a new status quo, and it makes it easier for North Korea to conduct its relations as its own, you might say, unique state. And it's communicating in effect that it's lost the inter-Korean competition. So its only choice is to cut off from the South and discard all notions of unification, even though that may not be what its populace actually feels. And so the U.S. election outcome is going to have little influence on Kim right now, even if Trump were to win. And that's because, again, in my view, Kim is no longer fully free to act internationally because he's in part beholden to Putin as Putin's junior partner.
Mm-hmm. Well, Russia is backing North Korea's, persistent claim of drone incursions by South Korea and submitting a bill, to ratify Russia's strategic agreement with the North. What is behind Pyongyang-Moscow deepening military ties right now at the moment?
Well, the treaty that is being discussed in the Duma, which was in outline form agreed between Kim and Putin in June, Peskov, the spokesman for the Kremlin, says that the treaty is unambiguous on mutual defense, but frankly, it's subject to interpretation. And frankly, it's really up to Putin's interpretation because he's the senior partner. So job number one for Kim Jong-un right now is to not disappoint Putin and deliver the goods, whatever he asks for. And that includes sending several thousand troops who, according to Ukrainian intelligence, some of them being Korean, are being dubbed Buryats, which is a Russian province just north of Mongolia. They're essentially of Mongolian-related background. And so they're basically calling the North Korean troops Buryats. So Kim is now Putin's contractor, and at all costs, he has to succeed where Putin expects him to. And if Kim fails Putin, he's going to be thrown under the bus and abandoned. And Putin may leave it to President Xi to have his way with North Korea. And Xi will find ways to constrict Kim through dependence and subordinating North Korea's economy and foreign policy to China's needs. So basically, I'd say Kim Jong-un, his back is to the wall.
Well, we cannot not talk about China here. Pyongyang-Beijing ties appear to be not as tight as Pyongyang-Beijing relations. Now, do you think China will remain quiet about the recent, escalating tensions here on the Korean Peninsula? What do you think?
It's part of a larger picture of Chinese relations with the Russians, and of course the new Russian defense minister met with a senior Chinese military official, I believe just yesterday. They're communicating on all sorts of security-related matters. But for Kim Jong-un, he met President Xi 5 times, the last time in June of 2019. But that's over 5 years without face-to-face contact. But Xi's end goals are more for DPRK subordination, recognizing China's superior status. But from Kim's point of view, he knows this means progressive loss of North Korean independence and sovereignty. And that's why he reached out to Putin last year, because Russia's war in Ukraine after about a year was stalemated. And since Kim could no longer use the option of counterbalancing enormous Chinese pressure with ties to the U.S. under the newly elected President Biden, this became his only option to improve ties with Russia and do what Russia asks of him. So this is likely Kim's final effort to forestall what could be tragic consequences for the North in the not-too-distant future, where it could de facto lose its sovereignty and independence, although nominally be its own state.
Alrighty, Dr. Barry, thank you so much for joining us and also for sharing your insights with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Okay, you're quite welcome. Thank you.
Voting in by-elections to elect 4 local government heads and Seoul City's superintendent of education began on Wednesday. The local government positions are in Busan City's Kimjong-gu district, Incheon City's Gangwon-gun county, and Yeonggwang-gun and Gokseong-gun counties in Jeollanam-do province. Voting opened at 6 a.m. and will continue until 8 p.m. at over 2,400 polling stations nationwide. Early voting was held over 2 days from the 11th to the 12th, with turnout at a little less than 9%. Although this is considered a mini by-election with no lawmakers or metropolitan mayors being elected, it is the first election since the general election in April and could hint at a change in public sentiment. Now, the final results, including early voting, are expected to be announced at around midnight. Employment here in South Korea increased by more than 100,000 on-year for the third straight month in September. Data released by Statistics Korea on Wednesday showed that there were 28.84 million people in employment last year, up 144,000 from the previous year. The on-year job growth recovered to the 100,000 range in July and has remained there for 3 consecutive months. And the increase last month was most prominent in the information and communication sector. But both the wholesale and retail sector and the construction sector recorded declines for the 7th and 5th straight month each. Now, by age, the job growth was mainly driven by those aged 60 and above, with 272,000 more people of that age in jobs compared to last year. The South Korean national football team beat Iraq 3-2 in Tuesday night's World Cup qualifier. Playing in front of a sold-out crowd at Yonggi Stadium, Oh Se-hoon scored from close range in the 41st minute to give the home side the lead. Iraq drew a level from Ayman Hussein just 5 minutes into the second half. But South Korea retook the lead thanks to a goal from Oh Hyung-gyu in the 74th minute and a diving header from Lee Jae-sung in the 83rd minute. Iraq adding a stoppage time goal, but South Korea held on to the win and sit top of Group B. There's a special event taking place in Korea showcasing a blend of rich heritage, art and nature involving royal tombs of the Joseon dynasty. Our Iuni reports on the event that highlights the beauty and meaning of the UNESCO-listed historical sites.
In South Korea, the royal tombs of the Joseon dynasty are a rare example of tombs from an entire dynasty that have largely remained intact in their original state. These tombs belong to the kings and queens of the Joseon dynasty and the emperors of the Korean Empire dating back over 600 years. Designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Joseon Royal Tombs consist of 40 tombs scattered across 18 locations. This year's Korea Heritage Joseon Royal Tombs Festival once again brings history to life in these scenic surroundings. Step into a fascinating time travel experience where nature, history, and art converge at the Joseon Royal Tombs. If you're looking to explore the rich heritage in a truly unique way, this is the place to be. Connect with nature through diverse programs, including the creation of traditional cosmetics, crafted from natural ingredients used during the Joseon era. For those seeking excitement, concerts challenge the boundaries of contemporary dance, featuring unique musical interpretations inspired by traditional Korean music.
It's autumn and the weather is nice. So I was looking for a place to go and I got to see the performance, and it's really great. The background is beautiful, making it a lovely experience.
The festival continues into the night, where the stories of the Joseon Royal Tombs come alive under a mystical sky.
Our Garden of Gods is an integrated performance that combines advanced technology and light with traditional dance and music. It guides the audience on a journey through Joseon's royal funeral rituals, from summoning spirits to building the tombs to the final resting place in the shrine.
Watching such a fun performance makes me happy. I'm having a great time here, taking pictures and enjoying it.
While the grandeur of the performance may be overwhelming for some young children, the festival includes a nighttime exhibition filled with media art. Thousands of holographic butterflies represent the hope that King Gojong envisioned for the Korean Empire, alongside beautiful lotus sculptures made from traditional Korean paper.
It's obvious that a lot of work went into making this event so grand. I really enjoyed it, but my child got a bit scared, so we had to leave early. Everything was nicely arranged in this garden, making it a perfect place for families with kids.
The 10-day festival runs until October 20th, offering a variety of activities and programs at 5 Joseon Royal Tomb sites in Gyeonggi-do Province. Lee Eun-hee, Arirang News.
And now let's take a look at the stories from around the world with our Kim Xiang. Good morning, Xiang.
Good morning, Dami.
So Pakistan is hosting this year's SCO summit in its capital. What is SCO and what should we expect from this year's edition?
Yes, that's right, Dami. With Pakistan hosting this year's two-day Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit, leaders of the 10 member states gathered in the country's capital, Islamabad, on Tuesday. Now, top diplomats were seen arriving ahead of Wednesday's main conference with the likes of Chinese Premier Li Qiang and the Indian Foreign Minister Subramanyam Jaishankar on a rare visit to the host country. Pakistan's capital has been under a strict security lockdown since Monday, with its government announcing a public holiday in Islamabad, temporarily shutting down schools and businesses, while large contingents of paramilitary and police forces were deployed across the city. While most heads of state declined the invitation to attend the Pakistan summit, the arrival of India's foreign minister marked the first visit by the rival country's top envoy in almost a decade. Now, Li Qiang's visit is also the first by a Chinese premier to Pakistan in 11 years. The SCO, a Eurasian security organization created by China and Russia in 2001, is comprised of 10 member states: China, Russia, India, Pakistan, Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Belarus, the last of which officially joined the pact in July. Moving over to Japan, where urban rail network service provider Tokyo Metro has raised some $2.3 billion in its initial public offering, becoming the country's biggest IPO in 6 years. According to the company's regulatory filing on Tuesday, Tokyo Metro raised some 348.6 billion yen after pricing its shares at 1,200 yen, or roughly $8 apiece. Reuters reported that the offer was oversubscribed by more than 15 times, putting the IPO price at the top of the company's planned range. Currently, the Japanese government owns just over half of the Tokyo Metro, with the rest of the shares owned by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government. The two government bodies will sell half of their shares in this IPO. The stock is expected to be listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange on October 23rd. A Russian man has been rescued from the sea after his small boat drifted for 67 days in the northwestern Pacific Ocean, according to reports on Tuesday. Authorities in Russia's Far East said that they discovered a vessel in the Sea of Okhotsk on October 14th, with one survivor out of the 3 on board. The 46-year-old survivor set sail on August 9th with his 49-year-old brother and his 15-year-old nephew, who both died during the ordeal. The survivor has reportedly been taken to a hospital in serious condition. And finally, to the U.S. and the 51st annual Giant Pumpkin Weigh-Off in Half Moon Bay, California, where a 1,120-kilogram pumpkin claimed victory on Monday. The gigantic pumpkin, grown by Travis Ginga from Minnesota, won the competition by a mere 2.7 kilograms and a prize of $22,239. Ginga described the monster vegetable, said that his pumpkin is well over 20 feet around, meaning it's a pretty big pumpkin, while spectators awed at the pinnacle of pumpkin cultivation. Ginga previously set the world record for the biggest pumpkin in 2023, squashing the competition with a near 1,247-kilogram vegetable.
Morning fog is causing some significant visibility problems, with a low visibility warning being issued for the domestic airports this morning. While autumn morning fog forms when moisture condenses due to cooler overnight temperatures, especially as warm daytime air meets cooler ground surfaces. So the month of October can be really foggy during the morning hours, with wide daily gaps forecast to continue today. Please join drive with care, especially if you're passing close to water. Meanwhile, we have been enjoying warmer than average temperatures, but nationwide rain later this week will bring an autumn chill to the country. It might rain heavily on Friday in the central regions, then the weather will shift to being more like mid-autumn by Sunday. Now back to today's forecast. After a murky and gray start, skies will get much brighter, but the East Coast could see some spotty rain of up to 20 millimeters. Seoul gets up to 24 degrees, Busan topping out at 27 degrees Celsius. Well, that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have for our morning edition of Arirang News. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.